The small town of Windmere was known for its peaceful mornings and quiet nights. At the edge of the town lay Silver Lake, a place where mist curled above the water like secrets waiting to be told. A wooden bridge stretched across it, weathered with time but still strong, and many believed it carried stories of countless hearts who had walked across it. It was on this bridge that Emma Hale, a young teacher new to the town, often found herself in the evenings. She had moved to Windmere for a slower life, hoping to escape the noise of the city that had left her feeling lost and invisible. The lake became her refuge, a place where she could breathe, write in her journal, and watch the sunsets paint the water in shades of gold and crimson. One autumn afternoon, while Emma was sketching the outline of the hills beyond the lake, a voice interrupted her concentration. "Not bad," the voice said warmly. "Though the hills are taller in person." She looked up to see Daniel Whitaker, a man with kind eyes and a camera hanging around his neck. He was a local photographer, known for capturing the beauty of Windmere through every season. Daniel had lived in the town his whole life, but he never grew tired of it. To him, every sunrise was a gift, every season a story. Their first conversation was short, but something lingered between them. The following week, they met again, by coincidence, or perhaps fate, on the same bridge. This time, Daniel showed Emma the photos he had taken: the lake under moonlight, children running through fields of daisies, the bridge glowing under winter snow. As weeks passed, they began meeting more often, sometimes planned, sometimes by chance. Emma shared her love of literature and her dream of writing stories, while Daniel confessed how photography was his way of freezing fleeting moments before they slipped away. One evening, as the first snowflakes of winter fell, Daniel said quietly, "Funny thing about this bridge. My grandparents met here too. My grandfather used to say it isn't just wood and nails, it's a place that brings hearts together." Emma smiled, brushing snow from the railing. "Then maybe it has chosen us, too." Their friendship slowly deepened into something neither of them tried to name at first. They walked the town's cobblestone streets, visited the old library, and spent evenings laughing in a little cafe that smelled of cinnamon and fresh bread. Yet the bridge remained their place, where conversations turned into confessions, where silence felt like understanding. But love, like the seasons, carried both warmth and storms. A letter from a publishing company in New York. They wanted her to come and work with them, an opportunity she had dreamed of since childhood. Yet the thought of leaving Windmere, and Daniel, weighed on her heart like heavy rain clouds. She told Daniel one night, standing once again on the bridge, "It's everything I've ever wanted, but I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose us." Daniel's jaw tightened, but his voice was gentle. "Emma, your dreams matter. More than anything. If you go, this bridge will still be here. And so will I." Tears welled in her eyes as he held her hands against the cold wooden rail. "But what if distance changes everything?" He shook his head. "Some things don't change. Some things only grow stronger." And so, Emma left for New York. The months that followed were filled with letters, pages upon pages of words that carried love across miles. Daniel sent her photographs of Silver Lake in every season, while Emma wrote stories that always seemed to echo pieces of them: a teacher by a bridge, a photographer chasing light. A year later, on the anniversary of the day they first met, Emma returned to Windmere. She carried with her a published book, her first, dedicated to the keeper of moments. When she reached Silver Lake, Daniel was already waiting, camera in hand. The mist rose just as it had the first day, and the bridge creaked beneath their steps as they walked toward each other. No words were needed. Emma simply placed the book in his hands, and he pulled her into an embrace that told her everything she had ever needed to know. The bridge had kept its promise. And together, hand in hand, they crossed it, into every season yet to come. The small town of Elmsworth had always been quiet, its streets lined with maple trees that blazed with colors each autumn. To most people, it was just another sleepy town where nothing ever changed. But for Clara Bennett, Elmsworth was both a cage and a comfort. She was 26, a librarian who spent her days among dust-covered books and evenings gazing out her window at the world she thought she would never explore. It was on a golden October morning when she met him. He came into the library wearing a dark coat, his hair ruffled by the wind. His name was Daniel Whitmore, a photographer who had just returned from years of traveling across Europe. His eyes held stories of faraway places, but his smile carried a gentleness that felt like home. He asked Clara where he could find old maps of the town for a project he was working on. Clara led him to the archives, their footsteps echoing softly through the narrow aisles. For reasons she could not explain, her heart raced. She was shy, reserved, always afraid to step too close to anyone, but with Daniel, it felt different. He noticed her love for books, the way her fingers lingered on spines as though each volume carried a piece of her soul. Over the weeks that followed, Daniel became a familiar presence. He brought her coffee from the little cafe across the street, always insisting she deserved a break. He showed her photographs of places she had only read about, the streets of Florence at dawn, the snowy rooftops of Prague, the endless lavender fields in France. And yet, he confessed, none of them ever felt like home. One evening, as autumn leaves swirled across the pavement, they walked together along the riverside. Daniel paused, lifting his camera to capture the moment, but then he lowered it and turned to her. "You know, Clara," he said softly, "some things are too beautiful to be trapped in a picture. Some things you just have to hold on to here." He pressed his hand gently against his chest. Clara felt the warmth of his words linger in the cool air. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps her world wasn't meant to stay within the walls of the library. Winter arrived, and with it came evenings by the fireplace. Daniel would bring his photographs, and Clara would read poetry aloud. Slowly, a bond grew between them, delicate but undeniable. Yet, beneath it all, Clara feared what she wanted most, that he would leave again. Fear found its voice. "Daniel," she whispered, "when spring comes, will you go?" He was silent for a moment, his gaze fixed on the falling snow outside the window. Then he looked at her, his eyes steady and kind. "I've been searching for a place that feels like belonging, Clara. And I think I found it here, with you." Her breath caught, and for the first time in years, Clara felt her heart open fully. The girl who once believed her life would remain quietly hidden among books had found herself in the story she never dared to dream. Spring did come, but Daniel stayed. Together, they built a life in Elmsworth, one of photographs and books, of laughter and late-night conversations, of love that grew stronger with every season. And whenever the autumn winds returned, Clara would smile, remembering the day everything began, the day Daniel walked into the library, and her world finally began to bloom. The small town of Ainsworth was always painted in gold during autumn. Trees stretched across the cobbled streets, their branches heavy with amber and crimson leaves that danced with every gust of wind. For most people, it was simply another season. But for Claire Bennett, autumn was when her heart remembered. Claire was a young painter who had returned from the city to her childhood home after her father's passing. The old family bookstore now sat in silence, its once bustling aisles filled with dust and memories. Every morning, she opened its creaking doors, not to sell books, few customers ever came, but to sit by the window, sketching the town she thought she had outgrown. One late afternoon, as the rain tapped gently on the glass, the bell above the door rang. A man stepped inside, shaking off his umbrella. He was tall, with tired eyes that carried a kind of quiet sorrow. "Sorry, are you still open?" he asked. Claire looked up, surprised. "We never really close," she said with a faint smile. The man chuckled and walked toward the shelves. His name, as she later learned, was Daniel Whitmore. He was a literature professor who had recently moved to Ainsworth for a quieter life. Books were his escape, just as painting was hers. Over the weeks that followed, Daniel kept returning. At first, it was just to browse, but soon he lingered longer, asking Claire about her favorite novels, her sketches, her reasons for coming back to this quiet town. They shared stories in the soft glow of the shop's lamps, their laughter mingling with the rustling of pages. Claire found herself painting again with passion, her canvases filled with autumn streets and fleeting glances of a man who seemed to carry both shadows and light. Daniel, in turn, began writing again, leaving small folded notes in the books he bought. Each note carried a fragment of poetry, words that seemed to echo Claire's own unspoken feelings. Snow threatened the edge of autumn. Daniel confessed why he had come to Ainsworth. His wife had passed away 2 years ago, leaving him adrift. He thought the town might heal him, but instead, he found something unexpected: Claire. Her heart trembled at his words. She reached across the counter, her hand covering his. "We're both learning how to start again," she whispered. From that moment on, their lives intertwined gently, like threads of a tapestry slowly being woven together. They walked under the falling leaves, drank coffee at dawn, and filled the empty bookstore with warmth. Claire began hosting small art exhibits in the shop, while Daniel held poetry readings. The townsfolk returned, and soon, the bookstore was alive again, its shelves not just with books, but with stories, love, and laughter. Years later, when the leaves turned gold once more, people passing by Ainsworth's old bookstore would often see a woman with paint-stained hands and a man with a worn notebook, sitting by the window. They would be smiling, as if autumn itself had whispered